Hello everyone and welcome back to Modded Minecraft, where last time we put together this fusion reactor that's behind me, and it's currently not running because I don't need the insane power that this thing produces. But what I do need is a machine that will consume all of this insane power that the thing can create, and that machine is called the supercritical phase shifter, or the SPS as many call it. Now, in order to make a supercritical phase shifter, you have to get your hands on not only polonium, which is what we're already making in the fusion reactor back there, but we also need to make plutonium, and we need to make 72 of them to be exact. So let's break down, first of all, the similarities between polonium pellets and plutonium pellets. As you can see, they're both made in the pressurized reaction chamber, and they're both made with water and fluorite dust mixed with the appropriate gas, polonium gas or plutonium gas. So the question is, well, how do you make it? Well, we all know how to make plutonium pellets, right? To make to make a polonium, you have to run the fission reactor, and then the nuclear waste goes through the solar neutron activator. Well, the plutonium is very similar. You take the nuclear waste, but instead of running it through the solar neutron activator, you run it through this isotopic centrifuge and you get plutonium. So I have already put one of those together. You guys have seen me put one of those together before. And then you take the plutonium and run it through a pressurized reaction chamber with fluorite dust, and you get plutonium pellets and then spent nuclear waste as well. So I have already done a couple of other things in preparation. You guys can see I've got 304 polonium pellets, and that's because if you continue to look past plutonium, which we're about to make here in just a moment, you can see here SPS casings. We're going to need to make 72 of those, and it requires exactly 1 plutonium per SPS casing. But you also need 4 polonium. So if you take 72 and multiply that by 4, hence why I've got about 300 polonium pellets. You also need that many HDPE sheets. So I've done all the work already. As you can see, I've got loads of HDPE sheets in my inventory already. I've also got all the structural glass. If you look here, this here shows I need 123 structural glass. Now, just like the fusion reactor, this machine is not scalable. You have to build it at this exact size, and I'm showing you the exact cheapest way to put it together. So first things first, though, we need to put together the polonium. So I'm going to place down the isotopic centrifuge and set it up in a way to where it will receive the nuclear waste. It's going to be sharing it with the polonium, but hey, I mean, I was able to make, let me think, it was over 100 in maybe a couple of minutes. I mean, it's really, really fast. We'll time it, but yeah, so that means that this isotopic centrifuge, which already has the speed and energy upgrades, and once it gets power, it's going to work like a charm. And then it's going to eject its plutonium out to the pressurized reaction chamber. And the pressurized reaction chamber is going to receive its water from this quantum entangler, which I will probably end up putting a port in the fission reactor to receive some of the water as well. So that means that it's very possible that as long as I tell this thing to accept fluids in the front and then tell this thing to eject fluids, well, you know what? I've got to choose the right, oh, it's already set. Okay, cool. So if I set fluids to just simply output everywhere, there we go. We've got the water. We're about to receive the plutonium, and I'm going to go grab, oh, well, that's probably the easier way to do it, right? Just grab the fluorite from here. And I'm only going to need 72 of these. So literally just going to separate out 70. Oh, wait a minute. My math was off there for a second. Oh my goodness. Here we go. There we go. 64 plus 8. That's how many fluorite dusts are going to be processed through this pressurized reaction chamber here. So only thing I need to do next is tell this thing to eject power, and we will tell it to eject power. Okay, it is ejecting power. Fantastic. And we're going to tell it to do that down below. Now, I do have a problem, and it's going to make this a little bit ugly, and that's that this centrifuge has to have power, but then this pressurized reaction chamber has to be able to eject its spent nuclear waste down. So that means that, yeah, unfortunately, some of this is going to have to be rearranged a bit because of plans in the future. But at least for now, that means that I'm going to actually have to put the power cable in a different spot than I had originally planned. I mean, I'm actually curious to see if this works in the first place. So No, it does not interact with the top of the machine. Fine. So we'll just bring it around in that direction, and that will be fine. It should now have power. It does. Absolutely epic. So now I'm going to put a stack of this in here, plus the 8 that I'm going to have here. And yeah, let's go ahead and crank this baby on and see what happens. So you guys haven't seen this in a little while. So the coolant tank fissile fuel is pretty full. Actually, here, I've got a plan. My plan is do not receive gases in the back. There you go. Now all of the spent or the nuclear waste will go into the centrifuge, and we'll be able to do this even faster. That is fantastic. All right. So now I have the burn rate at 336, which is the maximum. Let's activate, and you can see temperature goes up to 1.19 Kelvin. Is that kilokelvin? I'm not sure. The water tank will not fill up. The heated tank is empty. The turbine is running, and the induction matrix is not full. Remember, if your induction matrix fills up and then this bar fills up, your fission reactor and your turbine will explode. It does not handle having nowhere to put the power, unlike the fusion reactor, which can run even if there's nowhere for the power to go. All right, so the oh my, okay, hold on, we have a problem. The problem is, okay, so we've got plutonium, we've got 10 plutonium pellets, but we did not set up the network for sending out the spent nuclear waste, which is no good at all. So here, I've got to very carefully dig underneath these machines, and I have to set up the ejection for the spent nuclear waste. It won't go well if I don't do this. So go ahead and place this down just like so. And then what I'm thinking about doing is just going down maybe another 3 or 4, and then just connecting it with the pipes that are already there. So, because remember, we have pipes going down from the other pressurized reaction chamber as well. So this works out. So let's go ahead and place down the tubes just like so. All right, and we also have to tell it to eject gases out the bottom. There you go. So now the spent nuclear waste is gone and down into the barrels that are down below. Okay, so we're good. Crisis averted. No problem. We now can crank this thing on once again and see what happens. Also, I can put this in there as well. So, all right, activate. All good. And I want you to notice how fast this fills up to 1,000. I mean, it fills up. I'm able to get another plutonium pellet just about every second, maybe every 2 seconds. So this is going to be done very fast. In fact, let me see. Yeah, everything looks like it's doing just fine. I'm gonna have to turn off the reactor a lot sooner than I had originally planned, which is totally fine. Also, I'm going to allow, once this thing is done, and it looks like, so it's 1,000 millibuckets. Nah. Okay, here's the thing. So you only need 72 plutonium pellets ever. All right? So if you are looking at how to use plutonium pellets, there's no other way to use plutonium pellets than to make SPS casing. So once you've made the supercritical phase shifter, you don't need the plutonium pellets. So if you make too many, you can send the plutonium pellets through the chemical injection chamber with hydrogen chloride to make reprocessed fissile fragments, and the reprocessed fissile fragments can be sent through a chemical oxidizer to make more fissile fuel. So you can essentially recycle your plutonium if you make too much, and that's exactly what's about to happen, right? So now I've got my 72 fissile fuel, or I'm sorry, plutonium pellets. This thing will fill up because I wasn't sure how many it was going to make in here. So I'm gonna let it fill up all the way, and then the rest of it's gonna pile up into this isotopic centrifuge. Once this is full, I'm gonna let this fill up as well. That way everything is full. I'm gonna turn off the machine, tell the solar neutron activator, hey, you can receive nuclear waste. Whatever's left in here will go into that, and then I'll be able to fill this pressurized reaction chamber with more of the fluorite dust, and it'll empty out these machines completely. Because if you have any nuclear waste in here at all, and then you destroy the machine, you will, and I guarantee you, you will have a problem with nuclear fallout all over your base, and it's terrible. So before you fill that in, though, you want to make sure that this pipe and this barrel and everything is empty. So I'm going to tell this thing you can accept gases again, and it's going to make a bunch of polonium. But once the pipe is empty, and it's just about empty right there. I'm fine with the leftover polonium sitting in this pressurized reaction chamber because I'm going to need polonium for the rest of my life, but I'm not going to need more plutonium. So you know what? Let's just throw the rest of the fluorite dust in here, and it will empty these out in perfect motion. And then there you go. It is done. So this isotopic centrifuge is empty, and this polonium or this plutonium is empty. And look at that. I used all but 3 of the fluorite dust. So I've got some extra plutonium. I'll turn it into polonium, or I will turn it into reprocessed whatever later on. I realize that was a long and drawn out explanation, but I wanted to allow you guys to understand fully plutonium and what you can do with it and what you can't do with it. Now I've got everything in my inventory to make the exact number of plutonium that I need. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put away the extra 21 plutonium. I only need 72 to make the exact number of SPS casings. As you can see, they're very expensive. So, oh, and I forgot to grab the polonium. I need 100 and dang it, I don't remember how much it was. 291 total polonium pellets. 3 of those are going to go into another build, another machine. So that means I need 288 exact polonium pellets. So how many stacks is that? That's 4.5 stacks probably. So there's 4. I'm just going to grab all of this. That's fine. Having all of it in my inventory is no problem. All right. And oh, by the way, my fissile fuel, I haven't gone and gotten any more uranium. And as you can see, I'm down to only 1 million fissile fuel in this quantum entanglement. And then I have the full tank full in the fission reactor. So I'm going to need to get a lot more uranium if I'm going to do anything of use going forward. But all right, so let's make 64 SPS casings and then an additional 8. And there you have it, guys. Those are the most expensive things that I'll make for a very long time. Now, I'm going to use 4 of them with an ultimate control circuit to make 3 of these SPS ports. Only 3. I know it says 5, but that's because I need more of those for something else. You need 3. 1 to pump in polonium, 1 to pump in power, and 1 to pump out antimatter, which is really what this is all about, isn't it? So, we've got the structural glass. It's just steel and glass. I've already made that before. To make the supercharged coil, you need a laser, 2 ultimate control circuits, 3 polonium pellets, and 3 copper ingots. And I'll explain what the supercharged coil is for in a moment. And unfortunately, because this thing has power in it, I'm going to have to do this manually. So I'm going to go 3 polonium, 2 ultimate control circuits, 3 copper, and then the laser. And there you go. There's a supercharged coil. And then we have other machines as well that we're going to need, but you guys have seen them before. So let's just mark this stuff off. We've done plutonium. We've done the isotopic centrifuge and the pressurized reaction chamber. We've done the SPS casings. The note of how much polonium is done. We've made 3 SPS ports. We've made 123 structural glass, and we've made 1 supercharged coil. Okay, so now we are ready to build the thing. And I'm sorry it took so long to get to this point, but notice we have less SPS casings again because we needed it for the ports. And yeah, okay, here we go. So the way you build this thing is it's one of those rare, at least in my test build, I've had test builds go differently than reality, but according to my test build, you can use structural glass as a floor for the SPS or the supercritical phase shifter. So the way you start building this is you make a 3x3 square, exactly where you want it. I've put it off center from the fusion reactor, but that's because this machine is a 7x7, whereas that's a 5x5. So I wanted the ends to be lined up. So that's why I've shifted it over once. So I've done a 3x3 square. Now I'm going to add 3 on each side, leaving the corner empty. And nope, not that. There. Okay, so that is the structure that you want to see, kind of like a square with the edges taken out. And then I'm going to fill the edges with SPS casings, including this inside here. That way it looks a little bit like a circle, actually. It starts to look kind of circular. All right, and you can see that's the 7x7, all glass, and then SPS casings on the outsides. Now I've got the exact number of structural glass that I need, and actually the center port is going to be for the polonium. So I'm going to go ahead and just place that down just like so. All right, so now we're going to do the exact same thing on all 4 sides and the top. Now the way to do this easily is not doing a 3x3 and then adding a bunch of pieces, but just doing a 3x5. And you know what? I'm going to turn off my jetpack here. It's probably easier. So I'm going to make a 3x5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to add an extra, like a little wing on the middle 3, leaving the top and the bottom completely blank. And there you go. There is your glass. And now the exact same thing. I'm going to add SPS casings in the gaps. And if I turn on my jetpack once again, I'll be able to hover back up here and put the rest of the frame on, although it's not necessary to do it like this. I usually do all the top parts all in one. So there you go. That is 1 of 4 sides done. I'm going to finish the build off, at least the 4 sides, and I'll do the ceiling live on camera, but it's really an easy build. It's really not a difficult build at all. It's just, it's a matter of just having it right. So if you've got it right, you're okay. You know you've done it right if your 3 that you added onto the 3x5 line up with the existing 3 SPS casings that you added on the previous sides. That's just a way to keep your perspective. Just wrapping it up with these SPS casings here, guys. Oh, I'm in hover mode. That's kind of funny. There we go. Okay. So now to finish the top, and all I'm doing is filling in the gaps here. There we go. And then now I need to cover the glass that's on the walls with SPS casings, just like so. And now fill in the gaps on the top. So this is going to be, once again, a 3x5. And I'll, of course, fix that little error I just made. But 3x5. There we go. And then fill in the wings. And of course, I've got 2 structural glasses I'm missing because, well, I've already explained. I've got 2 more ports I need to add on. I'm just not sure exactly where they're going to go. So I'm going to fill in the corners here. And I'm going to fill in this corner here. And there you go. That was the last of my SPS casings. These are the last 2 pieces of glass. So now I have to choose where the power is going to go in and out. I think the power should go in over here just because this is where my fusion reactor is. So I'm actually going to chop out 3 of these. Give myself a way to get in. I'm going to put the port here, and let's just shift right click and see what it does. It's yeah, input and output. So input for sure, because power is going to go in right here, and the supercharged coil goes onto the port that the power goes on. Now you can do multiple supercharged coils. I think you can do a total of 5 or maybe even 6 of them if you wanted to, but I don't see the point in doing that. It's just, you know, not necessary. So okay, power goes in. The radioactive waste is going to come out, and then you know what? Let's make it to where the antimatter comes out on the let's make it the front. Yeah, let's make it the front. That is like the focal point of the whole thing, right? So I got to get in here and take all this stuff out of here, but there you go. Okay, so the antimatter, I shouldn't have done the middle one actually. The antimatter can come out right there, which means it needs to be set to output. There we go. The antimatter is going to come out right there, and I've got to fill in these blocks and watch for red. Bam. There you go. Supercritical phase shifter is done. So now let's begin putting this whole thing together. I have some cables, so I want to chop down and connect with the output of the power from the fusion reactor. So literally going to go straight in with this thing, and of course it's not lined up, so I've got to line it up, but this should be absolutely perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and bring it down and bury these cables. Okay, so you can see there that port is charging up. It's slow, but it is charging up, and I'm wondering why it's so slow. I mean, it's not. This reactor doesn't have any power, and this reactor is also connected to the input on the induction matrix, but there's no output from the induction matrix. That's probably the problem, is I haven't actually set up the output. Or wait a minute, this is the input. Okay. So the okay, so the input for the fusion reactor goes into the induction matrix, and then the output is here, and I don't really know where this is going. I think this goes over to that laser, which by the way should be very full. Very nice. All right. You know what? You don't have to. I'll leave it connected. It's fine. It's not using any power. So that means that I actually need to connect the Oh, no, I don't need it connected. Okay, so because I connected the supercritical phase shifter to the output of the fusion reactor, and that's connected to the input of the induction matrix, that means that we're good. Now, the problem is that with this particular system, we won't be able to take the power out of the induction matrix at the exact same time. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to reroute some of these cables. I do want the output of this induction matrix to go into the supercritical phase shifter, or I could just keep it connected to the fusion reactor. Lots of choices. Okay, so now we have the hard part, guys. We're going to have to be able to take out the polonium out of the solar neutron activator, and before it is turned into polonium pellets, we're going to have to send it down and over to the supercritical phase shifter, which means that the pipes that go down into the ground here are going to have to be rerouted, and I actually need to empty out the polonium out of the pressurized reaction chamber. Or another thing I could do, I guess, I mean, this thing, look, this thing is showing that it has 1 nuclear waste in it right now. So I guess one thing I could do is turn off the inputs on the bottom, because, oh, not the bottom, excuse me, not the bottom. There we go. Turn off the inputs on the front, and that way, if I take out the fluorite dust, it does not get more. So if I run the fission reactor and fill up this machine, and then fill up this machine, and then maybe like cap off this pipe or get rid of this pipe altogether afterwards. Oh, wow. That's going to be kind of tricky. This pipe's got to fill up, and then I've got to disconnect them. And then this one's got to fill up and let them run, empty them out, and then reorient them. Oh boy, that's going to be fun. I forgot that the plutonium setup was not disconnected, so now I'm filling up all of these machines. Oh my goodness, that's a terrible. I mean, at least I've got plenty of fissile fuel, so I'm not losing anything. But yeah, unfortunately, you can't tank over polonium. You have to have a hard connection, which means that's gonna be a lot of pipes, a lot of tubes, but I think it's gonna be worth it because that means there's lots of capacity in case something does go wrong. All right, so all of the machines are now full, so I've got to wait until this tube is full and then disconnect it, unfortunately. Actually, wait a minute. I don't have to wait for it to be full. Hold on. Scram. All right, so if I set this to gas and if I shift right-click this right here, that will disconnect this pipe from this machine. That's what I needed to do. Okay, we're good. So now let's throw the fluorite dust in here. It's going to make several more polonium, but not too many. I mean, it doesn't hold a ridiculous amount or anything. So once this is empty, and then soon this will be empty, they will have no radioactive material in them whatsoever, and then I'll be able to reorient them to where now the pipes that go down into the ground won't interfere with the other pipes that go down into the ground. That's gonna be a bit of a tricky thing to do. All right, tear this up, tear this up. There's no nothing in there. That's great. This can actually stay here. That's good. And if I actually move this over to right here, then I think this will work. I don't know for sure. I mean, I guess we'll find out soon. But I'm thinking if I connect this here, and then if I put the pressurized reaction chamber right here, yeah, then I need to have a pipe with polonium between the two, which means this pipe needs to be buried way below ground and then brought up under here. But then this pipe that has to go from here with polonium out to there, that's going to interact with those pipes there. So, okay, let me give this one a think. Okay, it's unavoidable. So the polonium is going to go from the solar neutron activator over the pressurized reaction chamber, go underneath the fission reactor, and then up and over in front of the door. That way it's easy for me to remember where the pipe is, and then jet across over the supercritical phase shifter. That's where the polonium will go. And the spent nuclear waste will come out the side of this pressurized reaction chamber. So I can go ahead and just place this down just like so and connect with the rest of the network. It's not pretty because I'm going to be able to see this pipe coming out, but if I'm not running the machine, I mean, I literally don't even need that pipe. So that's kind of nice. So now that I've got the plant, and notice, by the way, they will not interact. They're not going to interact. No problems whatsoever. See that? We have spacing between the two, and that's a great thing. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and first of all, because this can cause some issues, I'm going to tell this thing output gases to the right, and also tell this thing input gases in the back. Good. It's set up correctly. And now I'm going to start running some tubes. Now, I guarantee you don't have enough tubes, so I'm going to have to go make some more. But yeah, we're on the right track now, guys. All right, the tube has been put down. Very, very nice. Now, I'm actually curious to see how much capacity it has. I guess I'd have to fill it up to know, but I'll never know because the supercritical phase shifter, as long as it has power, runs very, very fast. So there you go. Okay, that has been run. No problem whatsoever. I'm going to put this bin back, actually. There you go. And now it is dark. You know, I should probably run these machines since they are 100% full, and that is as well. But then if I run them, then this pipe does not. Oh geez, I should probably just make a whole bunch of plutonium because that's probably the safest way to clear out this pipe so that I can reroute it. Because I think if I tell this thing, yeah, it's already set to input in the back, and it isn't because I used my configurator, but I can't tell this configurator to connect it again. Oh, I did tell it to connect. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I just learned something new, guys. Okay, so that's built. Let's go sleep and then turn it on. I can't wait to see how this goes. All right, I've got everything connected, and whenever I did that, this solar neutron activator accepted and started converting, especially once the sun was up, everything into polonium. But notice that everything is pretty much empty, and I've pulled out the fluoride dust out of here so that all the polonium would go into the pipe. But you'll notice that the polonium is sitting in this supercritical phase shifter, and it's running very, very slowly because this thing isn't really accepting any power. So what I need to do now is I'm thinking I'm going to turn off this. Well, this says it's the output, so I'm going to probably turn off the input for the fusion reactor. You know what? Let's just crank this off. There you go. And I now think if I turn on the fusion reactor on, oh, blast. I have to make a whole ROM and everything. Because I always forget how to make whole ROMs, I decided I'll just make a whole bunch of them all at once. So there you go. Dump the rest. Gold dust can be resmelted, and then I'll send that gold out there. Perfect. Okay, so I've got a bunch of whole ROMs now, and if I had a spare chest, I think this would be the perfect time to have just a chest sitting around with a bunch of whole ROMs with DT fuel in them. A barrel. Why not? I like barrels. Barrels are festive. So I'm going to place this barrel down right there. And then I also I have to fill up all these whole ROMs with DT fuel. There we go. Enough whole ROMs to last me a while. Okay, so now let's throw this thing in here. The burn rate is set to 0. No, we're going to set it to 20 because we're awesome like that. And now let's flip the switch on this laser and get this thing going. There you go. You can see now it is producing many megajoules of power right now, which means that the supercritical phase shifter is burning through my polonium and creating antimatter or antimatter, and it is completely dependent on if you have fuel, the amount of power you're giving this thing. So now it's cranking through the polonium very fast, and I have 1 millibucket of antimatter, and it will come out here. I need to place down this chemical crystallizer because the chemical crystallizer will turn the antimatter into antimatter pellets, which let me just show you what that's all about. So antimatter is what we're getting, but the antimatter pellets is what's needed for massive QIO drives and specific units for the mecha suit. We also have to have a couple of them to make the antiprotonic nucleosynthesizer, which allows us to use antimatter to do crazy things like turn skeleton skulls into wither skeleton skulls and various wool colors into various materials and etc, etc. So the antiprotonic nucleosynthesizer is just great. It's a great thing. So I'm going to place that down just like so, and now the antimatter that was in there is in here. This thing needs power. I'll give it power eventually. And okay, I've burned through all of my polonium. So now, I've taken away this thing's fluoride dust. So that means that all of the polonium created by the solar neutron activator will go into the supercritical phase shifter. And I've still got max fuel here and fuel here. And I need to connect the power output to the induction matrix actually. Because if I don't, then eventually this thing will fill up and this thing will explode. So I'm going to have to figure that one out as well. Okay, so I think I found it. I have this power that's going to this laser from the output of the induction matrix. I also have this power coming out of the fusion reactor and was going into the induction matrix, but I've disconnected this. So now it's just a bunch of piping in the ground. If I connect these two, then that means that the fusion reactor and the output of the induction matrix are both connected to the laser and the supercritical phase shifter. And I will clean this up better off camera, but right now I think this is my best option. So now the supercritical phase shifter should have access to this power. All I need to do is crank on the reactor, and then we are good to go. So let's turn this thing on. We still have the same burn rate. Activate. Steam is going to collect just for a moment. It's still in there, unfortunately. Let's see if all of this is set up. All right, so polonium is filling up. Very good. We're not accumulating waste. The coolant tank is increasing, which means we're not at a net negative. Nuclear waste is not accumulating in this barrel or this pipe or the solar neutron activator. It's being converted into polonium. The polonium is going into this tube and immediately getting converted into polonium or into antimatter here in the supercritical phase shifter. Notice how fast, by the way, that this is working. I'm burning through I'm burning through polonium faster than I'm able to make it. I'm making antimatter just about every few seconds. That is actually ridiculously fast. That's amazing. And curious, is this thing, yes, this is actually really great. This is a good thing. So with all this set up the way it is, you know, this turbine producing 67 megajoules of power, those megajoules are coming into this induction matrix, and then the induction matrix is kicking power out along with the fusion reactor to power the supercritical phase shifter. We still have a net negative power output. We are inputting 67 megajoules and we're outputting 131 megajoules, which means I will not fill up on power, which means unless something has gone horribly wrong and a tube or a pipe got bursted or the sun goes down on me, we will not have a problem and nothing will explode. Now, I don't take anything for granted, okay? So, like, this thing's already filled up with nuclear waste, so I've got to go sleep immediately or we're going to have a problem. All right, daylight is on. The sun is on. The sun is up. This nuclear waste is emptying out. This thing is cranking nuclear waste out. The polonium is going into here, and the polonium is not accumulating, which means, there we go. We are producing antimatter at ridiculous rates right now. In fact, I'm going to grab my phone, and I'm going to time this. How long will it take me to make an antimatter pellet at this rate? Okay, I started the timer when this hit 100. So yeah, we're good. As soon as we hit 200, I'll know. I'll just multiply the number by 10. So just really quickly, to make an antimatter pellet, you have to have 1,000 millibuckets of antimatter. And if the math has not changed since the last time I played through Mekanism, you need a grand total of 10,000 uranium ingots, plus the other inputs of fissile fuel to burn enough to make enough polonium to make 1,000 millibuckets of antimatter. You need 10,000 uranium ingots, which means I probably don't have enough fissile fuel right now to actually make an antimatter pellet. I'm gonna have to go out with my digital miner now and you know, go scouring the world for more uranium and whatever the other inputs are. So that's something I'll definitely have to do off camera and in between episodes, because next time I'm absolutely going to be using antimatter and antimatter pellets and doing some really, really cool stuff. That is going to be worth an entire episode just for that. And I'm not sure how many antimatter pellets I'm going to be able to make between now and then, but hopefully it's, well, it will be one. I will make at least one, I promise. All right, so from 100 to 200 millibuckets, it took 2 minutes and 28 seconds, which would be 148 total seconds. So if I multiply that by 10, because we got to do that 10 times to get an antimatter pellet, and then divide that by 60, that means that I'm in for, at a burn rate of 336 with the largest turbine possible and the best, at least with water-cooled fission reactor burning at its maximum. And looks like we're still accumulating steam. Very interesting indeed, but we're not accumulating steam. Steam's just staying. I think that's a graphical error. Anyway, the math comes out that I will have an antimatter pellet, or at least 1,000 millibuckets of antimatter, in approximately 25 minutes. 25 minutes. My fissile fuel will not hold up that long. So I've got to get to work, guys. But I have got my antimatter, or I'm sorry, this supercritical phase shifter working, and it is beautiful. Oh, by the way, guys, before I forget, this is an amazing setup because it converts your fissile fuel, which is not radioactive, into polonium, which is radioactive, and then back to antimatter, which is not radioactive, which means this whole process is not making radioactive waste. It is a completely clean setup, and it is beautiful. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, please post them down below in the comments or join me on my Discord server and join me on this Minecraft server. All you have to do is become a $10 member. Link for that is also found down below in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.